dot, dot, dot. Oh, I think we're live.
Are we?
I mean,
Hold on, let me.
who's to say in the grand scheme of things? No, yeah, we're definitely live. We're live, yeah.
We are live. Awesome.
Yeah.
Who's here? Can we get a roll call?
I'm here. I don't have the comments
I
yet.
am here.
Hmm.
There's 5 watching now.
Are the comments enabled?
Oh, that's a good. I think so, yeah.
I don't know. Cool. Do you want to start with the introductions?
Yeah, sure. So, hi guys. My name is Charli Renken, and I am a resource development writer for the Harry Potter Alliance, as well as a producer or co-producer and communications director for the up-and-coming podcast United States of WTF, which is in pre-production right now. And I love zines.
Very good intro that I was partially paying attention to, and also trying to make sure everything was right. I'm sure someone will tell us if something isn't going good. I'm Amanda Neumann. I'm the resource development editor-in-chief at the Harry Potter Alliance. This is my cat Lars. There are 2 other cats in here. For my Muggle job, I work as the fundraising communications assistant, which is kind of like a grant writer at Amani Family Services, which is a nonprofit that works with immigrants and refugees in my community, which is in Indiana. And I also love zines. In college, where I got my bachelor's degrees in English and Women's Studies, I did so much about zines. I made a campus zine. I did an independent study on feminist publishing with a focus on zines. So I just love zines. I've also done a couple zine workshops at the Granger Leadership Academy, which is, if you're here, you probably know, the HPA's leadership conference. Awesome.
So first, we're just going to talk a little bit about Accio Books, which is the reason we are all gathered here today. So as a lot of you probably know, Accio Books is our annual worldwide book drive and literacy advocacy campaign. This year is our 10th year. We've been doing this since 2009. And over the course of those 10 years, we've been able to donate 350,000 books to hundreds of literary organizations. We've worked with librarians to advocate for millions of dollars of library funding, and we've been able to train wizard activists like you guys to organize in your communities, lead your own campaigns, and overall change the world. This year, we're partnering with Reading is Fundamental, which is an awesome literacy organization. We are working with them to be able to donate to 3 magical sites this year. One is in New York, the other one is in Illinois, and the last one is in California. We have the Book Fairies of New York, Bernie's Book Bank in Illinois, and San Ardo Elementary School in California. The reason all of this is so important is because reading is obviously fundamental, is really important, but it leads to low literacy rates lead to a higher rate of high school of students dropping out of high school. We have a 63% of 4th graders in the U.S. read below grade level, which contributes to 8,000 students dropping out of high school every day. And only 37% of students graduate high school at or above reading proficiency. So you can see how important advocating for literacy and advocating for libraries can be.
Heck yeah. That was a great rundown of Accio Books.
Thank you.
Uh, no problem. Part of me was making sure everything was okay, and also my cats are just being perfect as they always are. Uh, so before we get on to zines, would you like to share a little bit about your favorite part about Accio Books, either this year or just in general?
Yeah, so last year was the first year that I was, like, super, like, big and into Accio Books or Accio Books. There is a debate among the community about how to pronounce it. I've always thought it's Accio Books, but everyone has told me that I'm wrong, so I apologize, in advance if I'm the only one who pronounces it that way. But last year, I was a chapter organizer for, a HBA chapter in, Denver, and we were able to donate, um wow, what was it? Shoot, it just left my head. 1,400 books. And 400 of those went to our official partner of that year, which was the Boys and Girls Club of Puerto Rico. And 1,000 of those books went to our local women's prison in Denver. Um, I think it's what I love about Accio Books is that it's not just about getting, about the book drive, which is obviously super important, but it's also about advocating for libraries, because libraries are one of the first organizations that get funding cut when our government's looking at the budget. So it's really important that we stand up and make sure that libraries continue to exist and that the services that they provide continue to be provided through those avenues.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about zines a little bit, which is why we're here. Just a nice time for us to get together, to know that Accio Books is happening, but mostly just to have a creative space to make some zines. If you're here and you don't know what zines are and are like, what's this about? You probably already Googled it. But if you haven't, zines are just, independent publications, a short of magazine. And they've been around for a long time. Independent publications. You can go back to like religious documents being translated. As soon as there was the written word, there were people trying to share it with other people. But then political pamphlets like Hamilton. But then zines become more popular and more cool in the 1920s with fanzines. And then obviously the feminist zines in the 90s and a lot of other marginalized communities began using zines more to talk about issues that weren't being talked about in other places and to share personal experiences in a way that was low cost, either separate from or not dependent on capitalism or revenue streams, and a bit more subversive. That's the word I'm looking for. So at my GLA workshop this year, I made a short little zine about how to make a zine. And the short of it is you don't really need much. Any sort of paper. Paper that you're reusing that was for something else. This was from one of my library's Harry Potter related events that actually Tonks and the Aurors played at, which I will probably be repurposing into a zine tonight. Or you can use paper that you have at home, just printer paper. If you're doing a physical zine, you can also make digital zines, which I'll let Charlie talk about for a quick minute.
Yeah, so digital zines have started to become bigger and bigger as more and more people have access to design software on the internet. I have a couple of zines here that are made either all digitally or multimedia. So this one here is a classic, Hedwig Lives by Paul DeGeorge, one half of Harry and the Potters. And you can look, so the cover is all, this is digitally rendered. If you look on the inside, this is typed. There's no one of the nice things about doing it digitally is that you can use, less tangible resources to create it. There's a lot less. You can easily delete stuff if you make a mistake, and you can also share them digitally. One of the downsides is that you don't get that sort of nitty-grittiness of some zines where you see the place where it was cut out and repasted in, which is a style that is classic and beautiful. So it's all about what you have at your disposal. I'm not sure how Paul DeGeorge made this one, but I know one of my favorite zine makers, Mocha Chocolata Mama, made this awesome zine about Zoe Washburn in the Firefly series. And also about, so it goes into stuff about not only Zoe, but also Nichelle Nichols playing Lieutenant Uhura in Star Trek, and how important her representing Black women in sci-fi was in the 1960s, and how Martin Luther King himself advocated to her, or encouraged her not to quit the show because her being on it was so important. But you can see some of this is, a lot of this is digitally rendered. It's all typed up, and then there's other pieces of it that have been pasted in and photocopied. So there's lots of different options for making zines.
Awesome. So I have some zines peppered around me right now that we'll talk about, but I think first we should maybe, if you're at home and want to make a zine while we're here, if you haven't already started, now's a great time. I am going to grab probably, I might just print on this. One of the things I like to do, I don't know if I have any examples around me, is to reuse. I know from college, I have a lot of printouts of readings that I had to take to class, which are all really great, but I have them digitally or I don't want them. So you can print on top of them, especially if you're doing zines that are really dark, especially if you're using just a regular old big printer, whatever they're called, with toner, the cheapest kind. It's a great way to reuse things and also makes the pages look a little bit more unique. So I'll probably put those in the printer.
Or you can also do blackout poetry with them.
Exactly.
Great.
So if you're looking for, well, what do I even make a zine about? A couple prompts that are a little bit Accio Books related. For the first one, if you want to make a zine about a book you love, one zine that I really like, Sarah, what's her position at the HPA? I feel like she's everywhere. She's wonderful, but she has this zine, Beginnings and Endings, and it's the first and the last lines of some of her favorite books, and it's just so good. And reading through and being able to recognize which of these books I could tell just from the first and last sentences. I love it. I love books. I love zines about books. So yeah, prompt number one, if you're looking for one, which is what I'm going to start on. But one thing too, when thinking about zines, in maybe a larger context or historical context, they were really used by groups of people, especially in the 1980s and on, to really get information out there and to share stories that weren't being published anywhere else. One community, I mean the queer community especially, HIV and AIDS activists use zines as a way to share actual information that the government wasn't. There weren't any real guidelines for how to protect yourself or what HIV was in a time where even being a queer person or a person who used drugs in the queer community or not, there was so much stigma and no real official place to turn. So zines for those communities were more than just a space to be creative. It was a way to form a community and work towards a common goal, which is a goal that a lot of people and activists are still working towards.
Yep. So we also have another prompt for you. That is, if there isn't a book that you can think of that you really want to write about or you really want to make a zine about, you can also make a zine about why libraries are important to you. So you could write about the services of your local library. So what your local library offers. Some libraries offer job hunting services, resume building, resume writing. There's community meetings that often happen at libraries. So you can write out that, or a memory that you have about being in a library, or some of the actions that you can take to advocate for libraries, which you can find some of those in the Accio Books toolkit. Yeah, I'm gonna go for the first prompt because I've been reading this book by Gabby Dunn called Bad with Money, and oh my god, money is so scary, but also like we need to talk about it, and no one does. And I just kind of like make a zine that like has all the things that I've learned in a like space that I can just like pull out and look to instead of like going through the whole book, or like I'm listening to it on audio. So it's harder to go back and like be like, what did she say? Shoot.
I'm back. I did go get scissors. I
Nice.
grabbed my magazines to cut up, but not scissors. So I'm definitely going to start. I have a couple issues of Bitch that had been cut up pretty quickly, so I feel okay cutting them up because my subscription to Bitchpedia, I get the digital and the print, so I don't feel like I'm missing out if I repurpose it. I feel like it's all in good spirit. If you don't know Bitch Media, they started as a zine and have continued being an independent feminist publication since. They're now a nonprofit, a 501c3. And I do a monthly subscription, just like you can do to the HPA, where I also have a monthly subscription. So I can donate just a little bit per month throughout the year. So that way I don't have to make any huge donations, but I still feel like I'm contributing and I get cool things like both the printed and digital Bitch magazines. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a walking advertisement for all the nonprofits I really like,
but no, same.
I think that's fine. I feel like that about work a lot. When I talk about it, I just get really invested. But that's good. I feel like it means that I'm enjoying my life more than I ever have.
It's a sign of a good work environment if you become like a walking like postcard, or that's not the right word, but you know what I mean, for your organization. I work at a tea shop right now, and I'm constantly like at any moment that someone mentions anything like remotely like Harry Potter or like activism or like nerdy, I'm like, there's this thing called the HBA and you should like check it out.
I feel that. I have the Fandom forward toolkits, 3 of them, on a corner shelf in my office at work. And I often use that as a way to like talk to people about the HPA.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to screen share my process of making zines while we do this.
I was just trying to be like, what book do I want to make a zine about? And obviously, right now, I need to do it about the Raven Cycle series, which is I think the first book was the last Friends of the Operating Book Club book, Operating Library Book Club. Maybe the one before. I don't remember. But I've been super into Raven Cycle fan fiction recently.
Yeah.
So it's on my mind.
Nice.
Yeah. Have you read?
I think we've talked about it. Weren't we talking about it during GLA?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still haven't read it, but I am more inclined to do so. The more that you talk about it, because if you love it, I probably will be obsessed with it as well.
Yeah, it's good. It's gay.
Good. Gay is always
There
best.
are so many feelings.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And the fan fiction is really good.
See, that's when you know it's a good fandom, is when the fan fiction is like on it. Like
yeah, for sure. I also think she has a very, what's that cat doing? Just a really, the author has a very, I don't want to say specific writing style, but just very like detailed and elaborate and magical. And I think imitating it is a really good writing exercise. And I think a lot of people can like benefit from using it as a jumping off point for stories.
Yeah. Nice.
But I think I heard somewhere she was like not into fan fiction. I don't know if she's against fan fiction or just doesn't read fan fiction, the author. But I'm very pro fan fiction.
Yeah, no, fan fiction is great. I feel like actually fan fiction is how I started writing as a kid. Like,
yeah, I wrote fan fiction a lot. Like middle school, oof.
Yeah.
That was when I got my first, I was using Neopets and doing fan fiction on there.
Nice.
And
yeah,
like
I definitely, so I went to, in high school, I went to a public arts magnet school, and we had like majors, and mine was creative writing, and you had to audition. So it was a free school to go to. It was publicly funded, but you had to audition to like get in. And my portfolio for that application was probably a third Kids Next Door fanfiction.
Heck yeah.
Which I was obsessed with in middle school and going into high school.
You're still obsessed? You don't have to lie about it.
I mean, yeah, a little. Like, it's not on the air anymore, so there's not as much happening in that fandom, but like that was such a good show that like so few people talk about now. It was so good.
My first fan fiction, right now I'm tweeting a picture of the zine making. Gotta be active on the socials. Harry Potter fan fiction really took up a lot of my adolescence.
Yeah.
What else? I don't know. I feel like I was casually into reading a lot of fan fiction. I read Twilight fan fiction.
What did I read? I think I mostly read. I didn't read a lot of Harry Potter fan fiction, which like is ridiculous because now I read it like ferociously. But until like high school or college, I didn't really read Harry Potter fan fiction. But I was very much into, I think Kids Next Door was the first one, and it was more of just like me wanting to write myself into it. Like, it was very like Mary Sue, but that's fine. I was like 11.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with a good self-insert, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh my gosh, sorry, my paper cutting is like an ASMR stream. I'm glad someone's into it at least. Oh my gosh, this is just like a perfect picture for a Raven Cycle fanzine. I have a wedding thing, Catalyst Wedding Co. They're actually very cool. If you're into weddings that are feminist and cool, I suggest checking their website out. And they also have a magazine. They sponsored a camp the year I went. And they had like a contest to win a campership, which I didn't get, but they still sent me a few magazines, which was very cool of them. Anyway, this is a picture.
Nice. Nice.
Doesn't mean anything to you right now, but it means something to me for this zine. So
good. Nice.
Gay. Zines are gay. Books are gay.
Everything is gay. Well, not everything, but everything should be.
Most things.
Most things should be.
Most things are.
Yeah. Most things
IMO.
either are or would benefit from being gay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what I have so far. I just have this what is the word cover? And now I'm just like trying to figure out like, oh, what have I learned from this book? Because there's a lot. Like, I think a student loan section like might have given me a small heart attack.
Yeah, student loans are scary. Did you mention that you're using Canva?
Yeah, so Canva is awesome and free, mostly. There's some things that you have to pay for, but it's a really awesome option for people who want to design cool looking things. It sounds like an advertisement for Canva. We're not sponsored by Canva, but they're awesome. But basically it's like this database where you can like, or not database, this like program where you can design things without having to like purchase like a subscription to Adobe Creative Suite. And like even those like some of the stuff like you have to pay for, so like so let's just look up money. So you can like look up whatever you want, whatever you need something from. And they have like all these, so some of these are free, like, you know, I can just put that in the money in the table of contents, and that's totally free. But then some of it, like, you have to pay like $1 or something. Most of them are just $1 for, unless you get like a subscription to it, or like premium access to it, which you really don't need unless you're doing like lots of, you know, design stuff constantly.
I currently have the 30-day free trial because I'm making my work annual report. And I wanted to use, or the option to be able to use some of the paid features, but just going to use the 30-day free trial and get it designed quick.
Yeah,
that's working in a nonprofit.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely use Canva a lot so I work at, I think I've mentioned I work at a tea shop, and we often make our own blends. And when we do that, we have to create like a label for it. So I often use Canva to make those labels.
This is what I have so far.
Cute.
I know you don't get it because you haven't read the books, but it's cute.
I like it. It's a cool photo. It's cool paste.
Thanks.
Stuff. Yeah.
One more thing about zines. I got this. It's the Right Girl collection. And a lot of it is just, you know, photocopies of zines from this time.
Nice.
I used it for school. But it's kind of expensive. A great way to find zines if you're looking to buy zines. Obviously, the internet, Etsy is a great place, and other sites that are similar. But libraries often will have zine sections. When I was at ALA, the American Library Association conference, there was a huge zine section, and there were a lot of cool librarians that talked about their zine libraries. This is a zine here. It's called Zine Librarians Code of Ethics Zine, and there's a cat on the front. But in it, it talks about, I'll just read the preamble. We, the community of zine librarians and archivists, believe that because zines are often produced by members of marginalized communities, because we strive to respectfully engage with and represent those communities, because librarians and archivists are often part of the communities that make and read zines, because the material itself, so beautifully and wonderfully varied, is often weird, ephemeral, magical, dangerous, and emotional, because we reject the myth of the library or archival neutrality. Therefore, herefore, we want to be accountable to our users, our institutions, our authors, donors, and communities. So in it, first it talks about acquisition and collections of zines, and just talks about the best way to find zines. And this works for libraries as well as just individuals buying zines. And there's this cute little, I'll put a picture of this online, but from happy to horrible, about where to find zines. So the best place is purchasing directly from the author or publisher. It can be a bit more work, but all the profits will go directly to them. You can do this through going to local farmers markets or art shows, online, on Twitter. The next thing is purchasing from a zine distributor or distro, which are just normally people or even a group of people who will buy a collection of zines, or people will give them their zines to sell so they get a commission. So that's the next best, so that the artists and creators get money from you purchasing it. The next best is receiving donations from the author or publisher. That's mostly just for libraries. And then the least is creating unauthorized copies or purchasing from an authorized third party. If people are selling zines, pay for them. People put work into them, and a lot of that time it's emotional labor, and it should be compensated.
Amen.
My mouth is getting really dry, which is why I'm drinking some water out of this crazy cat lady mug. Because people are like, what should I get Amanda? Something with cats.
So we have a question in the chat for you, Amanda.
Ooh, what is it?
What's the oldest zine or zine-like thing that you can think of?
Like ever in the world, do you think?
Yeah, I think well, I know who this person is. I think he is wondering, he asked earlier if Martin Luther was the OG zine writer. So I think he means in like history.
I am sure there were zines before him. I mean, as soon as it's so hard to quantify. And like we as a culture, and especially me as a white person, don't know what all of the vast communities of people have created before people started calling them zines. But I like to think, anytime there were official things being printed or distributed, they were unofficial things. Even
Right.
probably like, hieroglyphics and cave art. People putting their weird thoughts on paper so that hopefully someone else will read it and feel the same.
Yeah. People always want to share information that they think is important. And so anytime you can make the argument that anytime you write something down in some sort of organized way or unorganized way, that's technically a zine. Do you have any other like questions or like either questions about zine making or questions about Accio Books or Accio Books? Do you want to have like a I'm gonna stop screen sharing for a second. Do we want to have like a showdown between Accio versus Accio?
I don't think there's a need for that.
No.
No
I don't think so
showdowns.
either.
This is a Hufflepuff stream.
Hashtag no showdowns. I am curious though, like what percentage of people use one versus the other? Because I think either's fine. Like I don't think there's a correct way of pronouncing that word. It's, you know, books belong to their readers, but I'm interested if it's like geographical or if it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Do a Twitter poll. That's the only way to know anything.
Twitter poll is high quality subject research.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I need some forests to put in my zine. So that's what I'm looking for right now. Oh,
Nice.
found some.
I'm just trying to figure out like what I want to write down because like I've learned a lot from this book, but I also like can't remember what it is, so I'm trying to pull it up on my phone. Here we go.
Just write from your heart.
From my heart?
Yeah.
My heart's so confused. So.
That's my biggest zine tip is don't overthink it.
That's fair.
Like, it's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be like honest, maybe. Maybe that's a little idealistic, but you know, there's nothing wrong with being a little idealistic.
No. Okay, I'm going to put that for now. I'm still reading this book, so obviously I'm going to learn more.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to plug A Camp again. It's just coming up. I'm going again for the second time, so it's on my mind. But
nice.
I saw a live taping of Bad with Money there with Gabby Dunn.
Oh, cool.
Talking with Reese, the CEO of Autostraddle. And it was just so interesting, just mostly because how little people talk about money and like actually being able to like be there and like hear a candid discussion where people weren't, I don't know, being shamed or mean, and just being honest, I felt like was really cool.
That's awesome.
And it was A Camp, so everyone was being gay and, you know, that kind of stuff.
I haven't been to A Camp, but I just love spaces that are gay without like that without the pressure of that having to be the entire point, you know?
It's nice
like I
being
love
it's like a queer normative space, and then there's so many things, but being gay in a space with other gays. Oh, who's that? Sorry, I just saw a cat outside. My bad. Oh, hey, Katrina.
Amanda summed up in one sentence. Oh, look, there's a cat.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought, and then I saw we had a comment from Katrina saying, hey, and the night's going good. Thanks for asking. I'm making a zine about the Raven Cycle series right now. That's what I've got so far.
I'm making a zine about Gabby Dunn's new book, Bad with Money, which is honestly one of, like, everyone should read this book. Again, no spawn, but like everyone should read this book.
If you're on this live stream, hanging out. Maybe tweet about it so more people hear about Accio Books because, uh, I know I have a lot of books I want to get rid of, and I'm using this as an opportunity to get rid of them. So
Mhm.
really, by telling people, you're kind of helping them out because they'll have a reason to actually find a new and potentially better home for the books that they don't need or
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
Uh,
Accio Books is the time of year to KonMari your library section. Not your library section,
yes,
your personal library section.
yeah. Um,
That's another book that's really good, is that I've been off and on reading lately, is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up.
I haven't read it. Watched her Netflix show. Loved it. Um, and I really love uh, her interpreter. I forget her name, but I really liked that she like interpreted on screen and like that was
Mhm.
included. Like um, at my job, sorry, all the cutting. I a lot of what we do, working with immigrants and refugees, we're just kind of a hub to help them with whatever they need. That's kind of our motto. But we have specific programs for victims and substance use and mental health counseling. But also, we just help those people and also anyone in the community that needs it with things like interpretation. And
Nice.
how it's important for agencies, like a lot of organizations or even businesses don't require uh, trained interpreters to speak with clients. They'll use family members, like children, and that's not really best practices, which
Mhm.
isn't the case with Marie Kondo at all. But I think just seeing her have an interpreter will hopefully make people feel more comfortable with speaking with people using an interpreter, uh,
Yeah.
just in any sort of circumstance. Because learning new languages is really, really hard, um, especially when you don't have money and time and access to education.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I think people don't realize, like, um, there's so many different kinds of interpreters. Like, I think often we just think of, like, you know, spoken language interpreters, but, like, and we only think of it as, like, in a, official setting, rather than, like, day to day, or, like, so I listened to this podcast called, Beautiful Anonymous, and they had this episode. So the premise of the podcast is basically, um, they Chris, Gethard, who's a comedian, he'll tweet out his, like, a cell phone number, and then people call in anonymously and just talk to him for an hour. And they had this person call in, who the person who was talking was not the person who called in. The the person who interacts with the podcast, who called in, is deaf, and he actually reads the podcast because he subscribes to a service that will transcribe um, podcasts or other audible content, so that deaf people or people who are hard of hearing can interact with that medium. I lost my train of thought, but basically, after that happened, a lot of those fans of that podcast started for, like, volunteering to transcribe um, Beautiful Anonymous for uh, deaf people in the community, which is really cool.
Definitely. And I think transcribing podcasts or having transcriptions for podcast episodes is really important. I think right now there is a lot of like fan support and volunteering to make sure that podcasts or the podcasts that they like to listen to are transcribed. But part of that really is, I mean, putting a lot of the responsibility for this accessibility, which helps with people who are hard of hearing or deaf, and also people who want to translate it into other languages. It's putting it on them to make it happen.
Right.
And I think for smaller creators, having community support is really important. But I really hope that larger podcast companies take into account that they should be paying for this. It should be something that isn't important enough to them that they think it's a necessity, not something that would be nice if someone volunteers.
Right. And they have, and the thing about that too is that these companies have the time, the money, and the resources to make that happen. Often more so than the communities who are in need of those transcriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for like not just like podcasts, like we're talking about translators, at big events. Like, it's so often that and obviously I'm speaking from a place of privilege and a place of that I've never had to request this, but often it's on people who attending the event to ask if if they can get an interpreter, or if, instead of the event planners having that already in there.
Definitely.
It's all about
And a lot of that work is being done online by these communities. And I really like the progression of zines. I mean, a lot of online spaces don't really take the place of zines, but offer different avenues for people to have these discussions in a quicker manner than making a zine, and hopefully people in your community finding it and reaching out to you to start maybe more interactions. I mean, the ability to use Twitter to access information and also connections to people with similar experiences to yours is just so heckin' cool.
Totally.
How's your zine going?
My zine's going good. Let me screen share again. I'm like bouncing between screen sharing and wanting to like also like be present and hear and
Oh, also I want to mention, Katrina said in the chat that Marie Kondo's interpreter, her name is also Marie or Mary,
which is so cool and sweet and awesome. So I have I've started with just how unpaid internships are. Actually, a lot of unpaid internships are illegal, and also or they're legal but just barely, because they get by just giving students college credit, which, like, so Gabby talks about in her book about how she really wanted to do this internship with The Daily Show in New York, and she was going to school in Boston, and her school wouldn't take, because she was a journalism student, and at the time, The Daily Show and Comedy Central weren't seen as like having anything to do with journalism, even though they were, largely political and news, driven. She wouldn't be able to get any credit for her internship, but she still really wanted to do it. And so, like, she was only able to do it and just barely able to do it because she subletted her apartment in Boston, and then had to ask for financial help from her parents, from her grandparents. Like, unpaid internships aren't accessible to lower class communities, because in order to take an unpaid internship, you have to have some sort of money to continue, like, to keep you going. And if that internship is another state, where's your rent money coming from? Where's your food money coming from? Like, they're just not ethical. So she talks about that. And so I'm just sort of writing things that I've learned. Like, I knew a lot about this before, but like, I don't know, the way that she writes about it puts so much more in perspective. Because like the unpaid internships I took in college were largely like local, were largely remote, not things I had to really pay for. But I didn't take other internships that were in other states that I wanted to do because there was no way we could afford it.
Yeah, I did some paid, some unpaid internships in college. I what did I do? College. I've only been out of college 3 years, but it feels like a lifetime ago. I did a paid internship at a nonprofit, the Literacy Alliance, which works to help adults either get their GED or learn to read or anything that they really need in terms of literacy, because adult illiteracy, even in the US, is a huge problem. And that one was paid. I also did an unpaid internship with Everyone is Gay and My Kid is Gay, but I did that as a independent study, which was really cool. I just did it around queer theory. And a lot of the reason I did that was because I was working full time, and none of the classes I needed would fit when I could go to school. So my advisor helped me put together an independent study, so that way we could just meet every couple months, and I could do this 5-hour-a-week internship with Everyone is Gay, which was really awesome. But at the same time, I was able to do that. I was able to take out student loans. I went to a community, wasn't a community college, but a local college. And I lived at home my first year as well. And I know that not everyone is able to do that. And I was really lucky and grateful to be able to have those opportunities. But, it's something that you don't really hear about before you're in college, or at least I didn't. Anyway, do you want to see my zine so far?
Yes, I do.
I don't know what you can see it. That says teen dreams become nightmares. If you read it, you'll get it. But there's the inside.
You got so much more done than I have. It looks awesome.
Thanks. Yours is doing good too. My biggest zine tips is just do it.
And I think I get really. Sorry, go
ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay. I'm so hard, or not hard. I'm so bad at it's so hard for me to just go and do things. I'm well, I need to have I have that mental block where I'm just how do I just go? And you're so good at that, and I really admire you for that. That's awesome.
I thank you for saying that. I don't know. I feel like zines help me do that. I can be very perfectionist at times, or maybe even just a little self-deprecating. But I feel like zines help me focus, and doing tangible things is helpful. But yeah, gosh, I freaking love the Raven Cycle series. It's so good. And the fan fiction is so good. I really need to write some. But there's just so much to read. I really need to give myself a break between reading a bunch of fan fiction and when the first book of the next trilogy that's in World comes out, because I think I'll just be a little confused.
Yeah. I definitely sometimes forget what's canon and what's not.
Yeah, and then, tell me about it.
That was hard watching Endgame with that, because I was oh no, Steve and Bucky are totally together, and then watching it, I was what is happening? Why isn't it gay?
Yeah. I haven't seen Endgame yet.
Okay, I won't spoil anything, but like,
I
well,
did
I
see
won't spoil
Detective
anything on the live
Pikachu.
stream anyway. Was it good? It looks
So
so
good.
good.
It was
It
really
looks
good.
I've been telling my partner that it is basically Deadpool for children because it's Ryan Reynolds.
Um,
And like it
I've only seen
looks
the first Deadpool, and I would say Detective Pikachu is definitely better than it.
really okay. I'll definitely have
Yeah.
to watch it.
Uh, it's really good. Justice Smith is a great actor. And if you like Pokemon, you'll like it. It's just so heckin' cute.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it opens, slight tiny spoiler, I guess, for the first scene or whatever, with Justice Smith and his friend, who is also a not white person. So shout out for any movie starting out with two non-white people talking. I just think of, you know, who am I thinking of? Who did the supercuts?
Oh, Dylan Marin.
Yeah, exactly.
Dylan Marin is the best.
Of every word. And I was like, wow, Detective Pikachu already starting out stronger than like the whole Harry Potter franchise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything going on in the chat?
Let's see.
No pressure, people who are here and out in the chat.
Katrina has decided to spoil Endgame and says that it is not very gay, but claims to be, which is so true.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I've read spoilers.
yeah, there's like one gay character in Endgame, but that character does not have a name and is also not like has nothing to do with the plot. Um, so definitely doesn't like that's not like
Doesn't count.
like it doesn't count. Like it's not representation that changes anything or like in like inspires any sort of change. It doesn't inspire queer people who are watching Endgame to feel accepted in the community. It doesn't inspire other creators to add queer characters to their media. It's there, but that's about as far as it gets. Is that it's there?
Yeah. I just watched heck, Wine Country. I think it just came out today. Amy Poehler is
Oh,
in it.
yeah.
But there were a couple gay people in it, and I thought it was very good.
Nice,
Felt seen.
nice.
Uh, Always happy to see gay things.
Yeah, always a fan of gay. I feel like this live stream can be summed up in gay Hufflepuffs make zines.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, my brother's here. Well, people who have been Pokemon masters since the late 90s love Detective Pikachu. Yeah, uh, definitely. Trey loved it. Eric, I think you'll love it. Uh, yeah. One tiny spoiler. It's not really a spoiler. There are Pokemon in it, and one of those Pokemon is Ditto, and Ditto's my favorite Pokemon. So I'm really glad that Ditto played a role.
Yeah, it's weird. When I was a kid, I loved the Pokemon show, but it's only really been in the last year or so that I've even remotely gotten into Pokemon. I remember when I was a kid, one of my friends had like a Pokedeck, and it was like prize, like his prized possession, and I desperately wanted one.
I didn't. Well, I played Pokemon Stadium games, not like the actual game. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the mini games.
Yeah.
Love those. Still love them, honestly. And
Yeah.
then I played a little in college, but then I didn't actually like finish a Pokemon game until heck, what was it? Eric, are you in the chat? Do you remember what? But it was recent. It was after Black and White. What was after Black and White? Oh, I played Moon, which is actually I think farther down. But I played Pokemon Moon. But I am very into the movies. The movies have so much heart and soul and make me cry so much. And the music goes harder than it needs to, but they do it for us.
Yes. Good. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to play video games as a kid.
Why?
Well, my mom is she just retired, but she was a psychologist. And a lot of what she did was addiction therapy. So she thought I would become addicted to video games if I played them. But for some reason, computer games were fine. I don't know. Boomers don't make a lot of sense. Or my boomer doesn't make a lot of sense.
I don't know what to say about that. My mom's a nurse. She was fine with me playing video games.
Yeah.
Not that I did a lot of it. I did mostly reading, including fan fiction.
There we go. Full circle to what we were talking about.
Full circle. Right, if you're still around and hanging out, are you making zines? Are you looking on Etsy to buy zines? Is our banter interesting enough? I'm having a good time.
Whacker Bagel says that they also were not allowed to play video games, so they share in my pain of sitting in the background and sadly watching my friends play Pokemon. I was allowed to play the card games, though. I had some of the cards.
Oh, that's good.
So, saving grace.
I didn't really play the card games until college, or maybe it wasn't until me and Trey, my partner, we were traveling after our first year of college where we both dropped out. It was a good time. We went to England and then Amsterdam, and we played so much Pokemon card games. Like, we would just sit outside and drink coffee and eat snacks and then just play Pokemon. And I had such a good deck. I wonder where it's at. I don't know. I have very fond memories. Eric, I am not going to tell you if I ever get screen time. Oh, that's nice, Riley, that your mom sent a gifted GameCube to Brazil. And that was before things were like region locked too, right? I mean, maybe they were, but I don't know if the GameCube was.
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
I still love a GameCube. Though the Nintendo 64 was what Eric, my brother, who's in the chat, played a lot, and it's probably my favorite. Where did I put my pen?
I remember, so I had a few Pokemon cards, but I was so into Yu-Gi-Oh! But not, like, I didn't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I didn't watch the show. My cousin, who was, like, my, like, role model as a young kid, was so into Yu-Gi-Oh! That I was like, I am going to get more cards than he does. And so I, like, saved up all my money and, like, bought all these cards and then had no idea what to do with them and then lost them on an airplane. And I never saw them again.
That's a sad story.
It's a sad story, but also, like, I was like, well, like, looking back, I'm like, you weren't going to use them anyway. You just, like, fate KonMari'd this out of your life. My partner is in the chat and just said, you were into Yu-Gi-Oh! News to me.
Ooh, drama.
Drama.
I am currently looking at the Twitter TRC_bot, which tweets lines from the Raven Cycle book series every hour to pick some quotes to put in my zine. Nice. Which, if you're interested in updates, that's where I'm at now. If you haven't read the series, probably means nothing to you. But it's good. It's fantasy. I don't know. I lent the books to my mom. She really liked them. And now Kelly, my sister, has them because we like to share books. Because we all like to read.
I'm actually I want to read this book. So what I'm going to do is to see, oh, I don't know my account information. I definitely, if I did, wouldn't necessarily want to share that on the thing. But I'm going to figure out how to get that book at the library near me, because I just moved and I finally got a library card at the Forest Park Public Library. I'm putting on my to-do list to read the Raven Cycle series.
Raven Cycle, like the bird.
Yeah.
I think you'll like it, just based on what I know about you. It's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine, you know?
Yeah.
Anything else going on in the chat?
Whacker Bagel says, having fun isn't hard when you got a library card.
That is true. Shout out to my main aardvark, Arthur.
Jay says, I have an active library card in 2 different cities and I feel like a book rebel.
That's bad boy territory right there.
I'm dating a bad boy. Serena Knight says, so excited for the new book about Ronan, who I assume is a Raven Cycle character.
Yeah. He is. He's my favorite character, which, according to Janae, who is the Harry Potter Alliance's what's her official title? Director of Leadership and Education.
Yes.
She said, according to that, it means I have some edgelord tendencies. I'm a little emo, a little feisty, but secretly soft and love small animals. So that's true. But he's a bad boy, and in books, I love bad boys with soft hearts. IRL, I have less time for bad boys. Because I don't have time to wait for their soft hearts. I'm like, okay, well, you're either nice or you're not, and I don't have time to wait.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So yeah.
Says,
no, you go ahead.
She said, or actually, Katrina says, I live in a really well-funded library system and want to keep getting the digital perks of that. Yeah. So one cool thing about libraries is that, if you don't necessarily want to read a physical book, if you prefer digital books, or if your library doesn't have a certain book as a physical copy, you can get ebooks through the library. You don't even have to leave your house, and that's great because sometimes leaving the house is bad because right now it's raining outside and I don't want to go outside.
Yeah, I recently, in the past couple years, have started checking things out digitally from my library a lot more. Just so I can read things on my phone, and I don't have to leave my house, which is always ideal for me. I love being home.
Yeah. You can also get movies, TV shows, music, and all other and comics and stuff from your library. There's a service called Hoopla that is that a lot of libraries put their content on. So you can also if you want to ditch your Netflix subscription, You can get movies through Hoopla, which is awesome. For free. All for free.
We love libraries.
We love libraries.
Both of us individually and the HPA in general.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of librarians within the HPA.
Yep. There were at my job the other day, so we do, like, tastings at my job, like, people come in, they book, like, an hour, and we, like, have them try different types of teas, and the other day, these 2 librarians walked in, and my coworker asked them what they did, and they're like, "Oh, we're librarians," and I, like, zoomed over there and was like, "Oh my god, you're a librarian?" Like, I'm obsessed with librarians. They're the real life superheroes of society.
Gosh, I'm not sure what I want to do next. I want to do something else to the cover. Maybe I'll just like cut out some related Raven cycle-y words. Maybe I'll write Raven cycle. I don't know. What else is going on here?
Oh. A doggo has barked in my house.
Yeah, Call Down the Hawk, coming out November 2019. Ugh, that's the next Raven cycle book. I love it. Let's see what else about zines. If you are making zines now or want just some random ideas for making zines in the future, one thing I like to do is just making zines about like a feeling. This one is just about anxiety. I feel it a lot. Super easy to make a zine about it. And that was something, I made this one with a computer. I think I just used Word. And then these are just scanned in illustrations. What else are good things? Making zines like for friends is always nice. It's just like
Ooh, that's a good gift.
yeah. It can be personal. You can make a zine, if they love their pet, make them a zine about their pet. You could write from the perspective of their pet. You could, write some sonnets to their pet, some prayers even. Or if they have, like children, you could also do something similar with that. But
Yeah. Well, we're gearing up, or we're closing in on an hour
we are, aren't
and
we?
30 minutes. Is there anything left that we want to talk about? Does anyone have any questions about zines or Accio Books or such? Blacker Bagel says, "Okay, now I'm making zines for everyone's birthday for the following year." That's a great idea. That's zines for as gifts is a cheap way of giving something that is super, super meaningful to someone. And I feel like if someone gave me a zine that was like custom made for me, I would like cry, like just immediately burst into tears.
And zines are also a cool way to like make a collaborative something. I remember after not this GLA, but the year before, I asked just some HBA people to write some stuff for a zine for Janae, who, again, HBA's Director of Leadership and Development. And I just did it digitally on, I think it was, I don't remember which thing. It was one of the online platforms where it just like moves the pages for you. And I sent that to her. So it was a cool, individualized gift that had a little more design than a card that we were all able to collaborate on together because we're all in different parts of the world.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention before we wrap up too is that there are zine libraries. There are libraries completely dedicated to zines. Where I'm from there's the Denver Zine Library, which is huge. And you can submit your zine to them and they will keep a copy for you. And they have like thousands of zines to go through. And there's some libraries, like public libraries, that will have like a zine collection. So you should check in your like locally if there's any zine libraries near you. Or zine fests are really big now too. I was really lucky in college to interview both the founder of the Albuquerque Zine Fest and the founder of the Santa Fe Zine Fest, who are both wonderful women doing really awesome stuff in their communities for artists.
Sorry, I just looked in the chat and Trey, my partner, and Eric, my brother, are talking about Pokemon. No surprise. Oh, nice. Yeah. Last minute Mother's Day present. Great zine idea.
Make your mom a zine.
For sure.
Because you can also do a zine that's like sort of like, you know how people make those like jars that have like little compliments in them for people when they're sad? Like you open it when you're sad. Make a zine that has like compliments or like little like mindfulness exercises or what have you that your friend or mom or other loved one can open when they're not feeling great. That's great.
Super heckin' cute. And zines also, I mean, can be a cool project to make like with friends that don't live near you. You know, a written podcast, if you will. So if you have people that you don't live near, but you still want to do like creative projects with them, one thing you can do is make a zine together. I mean, you can do it to sell it. You can do it just, you know, to send to each other, make it for your friends. One of the things I like best about zines is how, in general, they're very anti-capitalist, which is great. Capitalism ruins lives. Casual statement for a casual day. I'm just trying to finish up my Raven Cycle zine before this ends so I can take a picture of it, even though we've went way past, but
that's fine.
Is it fine with you?
What?
Is it fine with you?
Fine with me. You do what you need to do, Amanda. Yeah, I like definitely want to continue making the zine that I've done. I am super not great at multitasking though, so I haven't gotten a ton done on it. So I definitely will not be done by the time we wrap up.
And that's fine.
Oh yeah, no, I'm cool with that.
Okay, so to conclude, if you came in late and don't know about Accio Books, it's the HBA's yearly campaign. This is the 10th year. 10 years.
10.
Woo! And we've got 3 donation sites this year, one in New York, one in Illinois, and then one in California. You can find it all. I'm pretty sure the link is in the description or on any of the HPA's current social media to learn about donating to those sites. If you don't have money to mail books, if that's just too much, if you go to the site, there are lots of ideas for places you can donate books in your own communities, things like domestic violence shelters, food banks. Always make sure to check if the organization actually needs what you're donating. You don't want to give them something just because you want to get rid of it if they don't actually need it, because then they have to figure out what to do with it. And in my experience working in nonprofits, not a lot of people have extra time. But just remember, books friggin' change lives.
Absolutely.
I think we can all agree to that. Okay, this is where I'm ending my zine. I'll take a picture of it, but here's my front, Raven Cycle fanzine, and then my inside.
Nice.
Thank you very much. I'm happy with it, and I could put in a page and do some fan fiction too. Maybe I'll do that. Catch me at GLA next year, handing out some Raven Cycle fan fiction. Awesome.
So I'm
Cool.
putting in the chat real quick the link to the Accio Books toolkit. You should check it out. Before we leave, I'll share my zine, or what I have of it so far.
Yeah.
Here we go. Cover, table of contents, unfinished page about how unfinished their scam. So I'm going to continue this as a sort of journal as I continue to read this book, because it's really good.
Awesome. Thank y'all who watch this. I hope you have a nice night. Be kind to yourselves and each other. And thank you, Charlie, for hanging out with me.
Thank you, Amanda.
I have emails that I need to send you, and things of yours I need to read for the HPA, and I'll totally get to it probably tomorrow. And if I don't, you'll at least get a response saying, I haven't done this. Because, you know, we have to make sure we take care of ourselves and put boundaries.
Yep.
And I hope y'all are doing that as well.
Yep.
So cool. Have a good night, Charlie.
Everyone have a great Accio Books and a great night.
Bye.
Bye.